Hey, profs. Welcome on in. My name's Rob Lightfoot, proud two-time alum of Rick Edelman College of Communication, class of 2000-2001. This is Beyond the Brown and Gold.
I'm Jessica Kennedy. I'm the co-host here, also a two-time proud Rowan alum, class of 2008 from the Rick Edelman College of Communication and Creative Arts, and 2015 from the College of Education. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Rowan Radio 89.7 WGLS FM presents Beyond the Brown and Gold, a show that highlights the lives and memories of Glassboro State and Rowan University alumni. Now, here are your hosts, Rob Lightfoot and Jessica Kennedy.
On today's show, we have a very special guest. We have one of our golden profs, Dr. Peter B. Contini.
I'm actually tired of listening to all that he does. He's pretty active. No, this guy's pretty active all these years. He's done more in his lifetime than a lot of people.
I know. Lots of history. The most notable thing definitely is he was the longest serving president of Salem Community College. So he was there for 15 years, which we talk about in depth. We talk a lot about what brought him into education and kind of his arc into getting that position. And you can tell he just has a passion for it.
Yeah, education, but also the community and kind of how he's connected to so many people in the area here. So
yeah, so Pete's amazing. He has won the Distinguished Alum Award. Last time he was our Lifetime Service Award winner. He serves on the Golden Profs Reunion Committee, so he's very engaged. But one of the fun things we talk about too is all of the names that you see on campus on the buildings. Pete knows them and how he knows them. So a long history of his time here. All right, Pete, take us back to your time in high school. Where were you living?
We are going far back there.
Hey, that's not nice.
No.
Can I go before high school?
Go ahead.
So we're going back to high school.
Yes.
Where were you living at the time? How did you know of Glassboro State? How'd you get here?
It's an interesting story because I was at Holy Spirit High School in high school. I went to St. James. I'd always been a parochial school kid. Was in college prep classes, but had no anticipation that I'd be going to college. No one in the family had ever gone. I had one cousin that attended Glassboro State after he went in the service. Talked to him occasionally about it, but I was going to go to work. So I graduated, went to work, and was working about 60 hours a week for a local grocery store, and Monday through Saturday. And then on the side, my parents were food caterers. And so anytime there was a big job or something that, I was involved in that. Well, I did that for about 6 months. And I said to my mom and dad, I said, this just isn't going to make it. I had friends that went away to college. One of my best friends, whose mother was like a second mother to me, every time I saw her, she said, so when are you going to college? Aww. And so I never had an answer. And I said, finally, I said to mom and dad, I said, listen, there isn't enough for me to be busy with you all the time. I'm going to have to keep working. And I just don't see this for me for the rest of my life, this type of work. And so I said, I'm going to make two choices. I'm going to either go in the Navy, because my brother was just getting ready to go in the Air Force. He was my older brother. I said, if there's a chance, maybe I'll go to college, but I'll go somewhere where I'll be available to you. So if if you have a job and you need me, I'm, close by. Well, there were no community colleges. The push for community colleges didn't start until about 1963. There were a few statewide in parts of the state, but not operational under the umbrella. So where else? Well, Glassboro State. But that's a teacher's college. And I said, well, I don't know if I want to be a teacher. What's close by, it gives me a start. I'll find out, if I really want to go to college. Because I was okay as a student. I certainly wasn't any great, scholar, but I went to high school to play basketball.
Okay.
That's basically, and I played basketball year round and other sports in season, but basketball was our life at that time. And so I did it. I applied, and I came up here to take a test because I had never taken the SATs because I had no anticipation of going to college. And I remember going to Amy I. Pete and taking a test in a large room, and God knows how I did, but somehow, the luck of the draw, I ended up getting accepted for the following fall. So I was out of high school for a year before I started college. But I was young for my class, so I was still only going in as an 18-year-old. So it worked out pretty well. And of course, at that time, this was predominantly a female school. I mean, it was a ratio. I don't know what it was. It was probably like 3 to 1. And But the classes started, and it was a balancing act for me. I was really challenged because this time it counts. You're paying for it, number one, but more or less it's going to be your direction of life, possibly. I had some professors that were really pretty tough. My English professor was really difficult for me. But, I look back now, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. I got a lot of red on papers.
I had a professor like that. She was one of my favorites.
And he was a difficult guy to talk to, but he really knew his stuff, and I learned to appreciate it. And probably the most informative thing that happened to me was a course called HB&D, Human Behavior and Development. Horace Keller was a professor. It's so funny how you remember some names real easy. And the major piece of that was not only reading about developmental aspects of kids, but to go into a classroom and observe a child without them knowing. And you did that over a period of weeks, once a week, maybe for an hour. And I happened to be assigned to James Mason Tomlin School, JMT, in Mantua. And it was 5th grade. And I just randomly picked out a kid. He looked like he was kind of like shy and so forth. And I watched him. And it was the first time in my life I had ever been in a public school classroom, because I spent my whole life in parochial, who had a different organizational structure, I'll put it that way. I had nuns from Wisconsin who were very tough, and first through 8th, and then the Mercies and the Holy Spirit. And you didn't do a lot of fooling around. I mean, you might do it outside, but not in the classroom.
Wasn't permitted.
No, it wasn't permitted. And plus, the worst part was that if they reported to your mom or dad, then it was
even worse.
Oh
right?
my gosh, that was worse punishment than what you were going to get. So, but what it did, it opened up my eyes to the classroom, the organization, the interaction. The kids going out to the playground, all the other kinds of things that you see that I was really not that attuned to. And I said, I think I could fit this, because I enjoyed the interaction. So it kind of changed my attitude about why am I doing this over a period of time. And then at the same time, we were not rich. And so I had to work. And so I worked in to get my food, I worked in the dish room. And over the period of the years that I did that over here in Amy I. Pete, I became a head waiter. I used to run events. I used to set up for the faculty. I used to go to the president's office and Dr. Robinson's office, and got to know Edie Houston, who was the administrative assistant at the time. And so you kind of begin to see people in a different way, not just in a classroom environment, the administration and that sort of thing. And then I met, I guess, beginning of my freshman year, I met a woman by the name of Ruth Mancuso, who. Her husband was a faculty member here, but Ruth was the vice president of the Board of Education in Glassboro and the chair of the State Board of Education. And she was
a good connection.
She was the director of the Gloucester County Film Library, they called it, as well as the Camden County. And so I started working for her. I worked for her for 7 years, my 4 years of high school and then 3 years of teaching part-time. And she was a mentor, and she was tough, but she was really very helpful. So, and she kind of guided, the things that you were doing in terms of what was important. And, at the same time, I went to play basketball. So I played 2 years, but it wasn't to be a full-time thing. And it was involved because I still was running down Atlantic City or Ventnor, Margate to do catering jobs. So you had to balance all this in life. And at the same time, you got a social life. And the story I told the other day was that in this very building, not this wing, I guess, in this very building, there was an all-purpose room, and I was a sophomore, big man on campus, I thought. And there was this little gal on the dance floor and I won't go into the background of what was happening at that moment, but I turned around.
She doesn't like it. She only lets him tell some of the story.
Yeah.
Always.
So the fact of the matter is that I spotted her, turned around and said, "Hey, would you like to dance?" And she said yes. I danced with her the rest of the night. She was living in a townhouse over there.
Look at this, Love in Bosworth Hall.
Prof Suite.
Yeah, and
you love these profs.
The upshot is took her home, and that's it. We've been together. We'll be 57 years in June. So, and then fast forward another year, under an oak tree outside of Evergreen, I proposed, and she said yes.
You proposed while you were a student?
So, yeah, I graduated in 1966 on June 4th, I think it was, and we were married on June 18th. She still had a year to go, and we were only going to stay here for 1 year. And then we said, you know what, I might as well, while she's going to college, I'll start back on my master's, and that's how it started. It just evolved, and And 49 years later, we were still living up here.
There's a lot to unpack here. So what did your friends at school think about this?
Yeah, was it common that for that time that people got married when they were in college?
Yeah, it was.
And your parents too. Like, what was that thought?
Well, that's an interesting story to itself. At the end of her freshman year, we were, by then dating, and she had met my family. I'd been to her house several times and so forth. And being a shore community, we said, why don't you come live at the shore and be a waitress? You can also help with the Contini caterers too. And
we can hire you.
The upshot is that, believe it or not, her mom and dad said yes, which, and I think part of that was my mom wrote a letter to her mom. And as a result,
letter, isn't that wild?
Yeah,
and so, believe it or not, in the summer, that would have been summer of 1964, she lived in my house with my family and worked at Rapetti's in Ventnor, which is no longer there, but as a restaurant, and that's the way it continued. And so we've been in each other's life continually since basically the fall of 1963. So it's and she was a master teacher. She came here as an art major. She graduated, ended up becoming an elementary teacher. Came back here, got certified as a social worker, and also a school.
And was she living on campus?
She lived on campus just 1 year. She lived the first year off campus over on, I think it's called Clearview Avenue. And then she was in Evergreen she lived in. I lived that year in Mullica, but the first 2 years I lived on University Boulevard. And I often say it wasn't quite Animal House, but it was good. It was a good group.
Now, those are the stories Pete that we want.
Can we go back to you telling your parents that you wanted to kind of like leave the family business and go to college?
Tough.
What was that like?
It was difficult because they kind of viewed that as your legacy a little bit. The good news for me was my brother had broken that ice a little bit because he was moving along too and decided to go into the Air Force. And so, and he had a side, he was working for a milk company and so forth. So it was tough because they kind of relied on us mostly for the brunt work, you know, carrying, because catering was difficult back then. It was a lot of moving tables and chairs and china and setting up in different halls and so forth, not necessarily located in one place. But to be very blunt with you, my whole attitude toward work was from them. Their work ethic was unbelievable. They were married at 17 and 19, products of the Depression, worked hard, never finished high school. There was no expectation. I have to tell you, I mentioned her name before, Mrs. Gowdy, who was I called her my second mom. She's the only one who really ever asked me about how I was doing in school, because it wasn't that important. As long as you didn't get in trouble, as long as you passed, as long as you went to school, and as long as you did the things you wanted to do, which I wanted to do, was to play basketball and baseball and things like that. We were good. My family was very close, but we also had our, what I call, areas of responsibility. And so it was a little difficult at first making that decision. And then gradually, and until I was 25, till I got my first full-time administrative job, I would still go down and work. And Betty we would bring kids from college with us. We had a major event, like a 500 people dinner. We'd bring friends from college, to work. And
free workforce they had with all the Glassboro State College
And when we
kids.
got married, we had about 300 people at our wedding reception
Oh
at
my gosh.
St. James, and I'd say about maybe 70 or 80 of them were college friends.
Wow.
We get a kick out of looking at the pictures for the tossing of the garter and the bouquet, because all these pictures of people who are now married, or maybe married several times, but are now no longer.
Garter was very lucky.
Yeah, it's changed, and unfortunately, we also see people that we don't see anymore, which is unfortunate too. But this was a different place than obviously, and none of the reason was proximity. We had probably. I don't know the number percentage. We had a lot of commuters. We had a lot of students who lived locally, who were just here during the day. And then we had a lot of students that were resident students, either through the dorms or through approved housing, which was a whole nother issue at the time. And many of them would go home on weekends. And so when you were here for a weekend, and I was working at that time and with the food service, we had great meals here. We'd have lobster tail. We'd have steak on the grill.
I can tell you, I never had lobster tail.
No, I never. I had a lot of pizza here.
Yeah.
A lot of pizza.
But what I'm saying is the environment was it was a lot different, and of course, as I said, the ratio was obviously pretty significant.
You have a rich professional history.
Yeah.
Perhaps the most notable thing is that you were the longest serving president in the 50-year history of Salem Community College. Tell us about how you got there and what that position was like for you.
It was interesting how it came about. As county superintendent of Gloucester County, I served on that board of trustees for 14 years. That's a statutory thing. The county superintendent is automatically on the board. And so I was there watching Gloucester County, which is now Rowan of South Jersey, growing. And we had a little conflict that was going on at one time with some leadership issues. And so they turned to me as kind of the neutral party. And so I became the chairman of the board for a period of time. And I got to see a little bit behind the scenes. And I said to Betty one night, I said, if the right opportunity ever came along, I think I'd really like to get involved with a community college in an administrative way. And I wasn't sure what that would be. And so I went on from the Board of Trustees in 1994. I went to Trenton and I was Assistant Commissioner of Education, and that's a whole nother life that we can talk about. But in that course of that time, I made a lot of contacts, obviously around the state, and I got a call one day, and someone said, there's a change going on at Salem Community College. There was some trouble, and they're not even sure if they should exist as a college. And they said, would you consider applying? So I did. I applied, and fortunately, I was appointed to the job. And I have to tell you, it was a tough time. It was declining enrollments, reduction in money, and so forth. And the question was, should they really exist? So I told the board, frankly, at the interview, I said, listen, I'm looking for an opportunity. I'd like to leave a mark somewhere. And more importantly, I'm going to tell you for sure if you should exist or not. Mm-hmm. And maybe you should merge. Maybe you should become part of another college organization. But let's find out. Let's live this together. And so, and also, we want to take a look at how you guys are actually operating. And so I'm a big planner. I belong, whether you call them long-range plans, strategic plans, wherever I've been, that's been the way I've approached things, and not what I call regulatory, planning to satisfy, do you have a strategic plan? No, let's do it for real. And so that's what we did. And one of the things we learned real fast, you have to carve out a niche. And so we had some unique programs that no one else had. We had this glass program that some people had heard of, but didn't know about it. We had a lot of health programs that we could operate that no one was running right then, LPN to an RN program, that sort of thing. And so we did. And so over a period of time, and then things I got involved at the state level brought revenue sources to the college that they had never had before. And then a thing called NJ Stars was created. I was involved at that at the time, helping set it up. And our enrollment doubled almost, like 55, 60%. We were growing. So guess what? They're still there. And it also, I went there for 3 to 5 years, I thought, to be very blunt with you. Yeah. And I stayed almost 15. So it was really a place where you could try things and also understand that people really had a pride.
We'll have more with Beyond the Brown and Gold when we return. Welcome back to Beyond the Brown and Gold.
You've had a rich career. Yeah. You've volunteered a lot. So what do you do? Do you have spare time? And
it doesn't sound like it.
No, it doesn't. And what do you do in your spare time, or what kinds of things did you do in your spare time when your kids were growing up and when you were spending time with Betty?
Well, basically we love to travel. So we do some traveling. We
nationally, internationally,
both. We just signed up for a trip on the Danube. We're going to do that.
There.
We love New England.
Is Danube near Pittman? Is that what that
is? No, actually we're going to hit 5 different countries on this trip. But anyway, we also have a goal we created maybe about 8 years ago of going to all 50 states. We're now down, as of this fall, we're down to 1. And
where do you have left to go?
North Dakota. Okay. And we don't know what will draw us to North Dakota. But
just the fact that you haven't been there.
We haven't been there.
We got to find something in North Dakota.
We could probably ask Gina.
Gina, yes. That might be one of hers on her list.
Yeah, our alumni board president, same. She is, I think she said by her 45th birthday, she's trying to hit all 50 states, and she only has 3 left.
I'm going to quick Google what's in North Dakota so I can go see.
Well, Fargo, Bismarck, that's about it. But matter of fact, Betty and I were in Scotland a few years back on my 75th birthday as a gift. I like to play tennis. I'm not that great, but I love it. And one of my bucket lists was to go to Wimbledon. And so we went to Wimbledon as a family. Betty and I did an 8-day Scotland tour first. And then we took the train down and met in London, and we had all 3 grandkids, my son, the daughter-in-law, the whole. It was great.
That's a great tour. Derek and I did that.
Yeah.
You did.
Great tour.
We loved that. We did one up into New England with all the kids and Airbnb, and down to the lighthouse, gone down to the docks and picked the lobsters right out of the water. All that type of thing. It's an important thing. So that we get great joy out of that. And of course, it changed. I mean, we had friends that had grandkids before we did, and we used to say, "Hey, guys, why don't you stop it with the grandkids? We're so, we've had enough of that." Well, our oldest is now going to be 17 next month, and I remember they were living in Woodbury, and Betty and I babysat so Chris and Nikki could get out for the night, and Ellie was about 6 months old, and we're backing out of the driveway on Delaware Avenue there, and I stopped the car and I said to Betty, "I have to tell you something. I don't ever remember loving my own this much."
Oh.
And so that's the way you get it. It's a whole different
This
feeling.
is why I cry when he
It's a whole different feeling.
I might start crying.
Yeah, we eat a lot. That's the.
I love the European travel, though. Like the European travel side. That's so exciting.
And even with the national travel, we've done a series of different things. We've done some bus tours, but we've done some self-guided things, and we did Ireland with my sister-in-law is from Ireland, and so she has family there. So we were married in June, and my brother and his wife were married in September the same year. So we kind of always celebrate. So we missed our 50th together. So we decided on our 51st to go back. We had been there with them once before to Ireland. So we did a 16-day tour around the whole perimeter of the Republic of Ireland as well as Northern Ireland. And I drove it all, 1,200 miles. It was wonderful. It was a small van, and we had it was a great trip. But what you love about it is we met her family members along the way, and so it's a little mixture, of sightseeing, but also
connecting the family tree a little bit.
Exactly, and matter of fact, she's going to be on a plane going over to celebrate her older sister's birthday in London and England, and then in Ireland. So my sister-in-law. So it's my brother's not going; he's not allowed. It's all women. So,
all right. Well, where the cat's away, the mice will play, right?
Yeah.
I hope not.
Yeah. Well, in a good way, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And I hate to say it, people, I just looked up North Dakota. There's
nothing.
Stars. If you like stars and the mountains are there. So you'll love that.
Yeah.
You'll love all that. That'd be great stuff.
Well, you have a house by the beach, and I think there's nothing, nothing better than the ocean.
We love it. When we take the Margate Bridge, they call it Down Beach Express now, but it's the Margate Bridge to us. The minute you get on that causeway and you smell that air, it's just, you're home.
You obviously going here and having a history with us, you're very connected with the alumni office.
He was the 2022 Lifetime Service Award recipient, so he just received that honor last year.
Yes.
And
what a shocking day that was.
Oh my God, that was a beautiful day. That was President Hushman came in. What was kind of neat is they really know each other, President Hushman and Dr. Contini. So President Hushman was able to speak to their relationship, which was such a nice aspect of
wonderful.
the event.
I was very appreciative.
Yeah, so that was beautiful. And then Pete served on our Golden Profs committee for, I guess, that was pre-COVID that we started to get together and talk about.
And we had to call timeout because of
silly COVID. It just messes everything up.
I was worried we were going to lose our little lapel pins.
One of the big things they wanted, my Golden Profs, was, some sort of pin to, designate themselves. And it's crazy because we did all this planning to reimagine the weekend, and we ordered the pins, and during COVID, I had to change the shipping address to my house because I couldn't get them delivered here.
Wow.
Because there was nobody here to get them.
To take them, that's right.
So, yes, we still have the pins. Yeah. But Pete and the Golden Profs group has been very influential in making sure that we honor our graduates of 50 or more years ago. So, always so grateful for them.
Well, I had missed the meeting, and Jess called and said, "Can I talk to you about something?" And I said, "Sure." So I thought she was going to fill me in on the last meeting. And in the course of the conversation, he said, "That's not the reason I called you. I wanted to call you to tell you that you've been selected to receive the recipient of the award." And I have to tell you, I was overwhelmed. It wasn't anything I ever anticipated.
Quiet. He was speechless.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He was.
I'm very fortunate to say I've also, back in, I guess it was 1982, I got the Distinguished Alum Award. Mm-hmm. Back those days, we did it at halftime of the football game, the homecoming game. Yeah. So it was, but it's a a relationship that you build. And I guess for me, the relationship is pride. I'm proud of this institution. I'm proud of the people I worked with here. I'm proud of what they did for me. And one way to show pride is to work back and to give back if you can. You know, particularly your own involvement. We have a little group. I've told Jess we have a group, and unfortunately, the group is getting smaller. We call ourselves the Boro Boys. These are guys that many of us were in the same class, but maybe a year before, a year after. But we all got involved in education in lots of different ways. And when I say guys, I mean gals too. We're there's a lot of
sure.
But it's interesting how those paths have crossed so many different ways, and all of it happened. On this site, whether it's the campus school and the mixer or the baseball field when we were winning national championships. When I played basketball the first year, we played on Toe Hill, on the stage in Toe Hill, the auditorium. That was the basketball court. And if you sat on either side, you sat on the wings, you couldn't see the other end of the basket, the other basket, the other end. And when they opened up ESB, that was like, wow, and a swimming pool, all that excitement around that. It was amazing.
How great was he?
I love Pete.
He almost got you crying.
Well, he was tearing up at one point.
But
I can't handle to see a grandfather cry. That's just not right. I love him.
I did. I love all the stories, but as you kind of teased in the very beginning, I like how he knew all of the presidents and all the folks on the buildings here.
I know. That's pretty impressive.
Because it's a great legacy. Like, we all know them as just buildings.
Mm-hmm.
He actually met the people.
And it speaks to his involvement, his continued involvement with the university since he's been here as a student at Glassboro State, a married student. That blows my mind.
It does.
Well, it was so great to have Dr. Contini on today. We love hearing the stories of our golden profs, and we will catch you next time.
You've been listening to Beyond the Brown and Gold on Rowan Radio 89.7 WGLS FM. You can find more episodes on your favorite podcasting platforms by searching for Beyond the Brown and Gold or Rowan Radio On Demand.